Welcome back to the Gutshot Podcast. Kong Hi Fat Choi. And selamat berpuasa, everybody. Then here we go. We are back today after a long break. And I'm Shamsul Sam, your host, Gutshot. Today we're going to do a bit differently. We're going to look at Geo-Economics with respect to Malaysia and compare it maybe to our neighboring Singapore. With me today is Jason Leong, our specialist and consultant who's been consulting previous governments in Malaysia on Geo-Economics and geopolitical issues, and also for the private sector in Malaysia. Yeah. Jason, maybe for this episode, what we want to take the economics of Malaysia. We are an exporting and trading nation, yes, right? And we need to really look at, as an exporting nation, and how our economy works. I think one of the biggest difficulty I have is engaging with laymen and looking at how politicians handle our economics. There's so much emotion has been put into discussions when people talk about economics and geopolitics.
Yes,
and I felt that is very damaging for our interest as a nation, and also for our own private economic interests in terms of, I mean, let's put it this way. Let's before I start there, maybe I'll start with the biggest trading partner for Malaysia is China.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of bilateral trades, I think the figure for total exports to China in 24 is in excess of $41 billion.
Yes.
Okay. That includes petroleum products, including gas and I guess crude petroleum, and also integrated, our semiconductor or ICs and whatnot. But in all, also China is, we have a trade deficit, I think in excess of probably 16-17 billion ringgit a month, So there is a very big imbalance in trade with China. And yet, I think China is a behemoth of an economy that we depend on, that actually we cannot ignore.
Yeah.
So I think starting the conversation, I said that, we got to take emotion out of all this. We need to look at our data. We need to look at strategy clearly and see how do we handle things. Can you add to that to start off? Where do you see our economic relationship with China moving forward?
Well, Sam, thank you. I agree with you that we have to remove that emotional component and the sentiment out of geopolitical analysis, because that does not do us good, because we are basically a very small nation. In the scheme of things, in terms of global influence, we are still very small. And the big giants out there, China, US, Euro, and everybody else. So we have to be rational and analyze our geopolitics, our geoeconomics in a way that is objective, logical, so that we can make strategic decisions that is good for our country. So remove that emotional aspect of it. And then also understand that geopolitics, I mean, if you use an analogy of a football match, geopolitics is not a football match. A football match is 90 minutes. Geopolitics has no time limit. You can't say 90 minutes and we are done. And in a football match, there is a referee, there are linesmen. In geopolitics, technically, there are no referees, there are no linesmen. How many players aside? In football, 11 aside. Clear rules. In geopolitics, no such thing as 11 aside. Suddenly, you start with 11, and then US with 11, and then they'll add in another 5 players, another 6 players. Then it becomes 21 versus 11. I mean, that's life.
Yeah.
This is the geopolitical reality
Yes.
that we have to deal with. So we have really no choice. So Malaysia should be smart enough. That is why when the elephants fight and collide, we are the mouse deer. We must be smart enough as the Sang Kancil to navigate through in the midst of a very difficult landscape and still survive. So here you are. I mean, you mentioned the huge trade deficit that we have with China, which is very real. And at the same time, on the converse side, we have also a very good trade relationship with the US. But on the other hand, with the US, we have a fairly huge trade surplus. So how do we balance these two components and see what is the best way forward and get the best of both worlds? Right.
And then with all this implementation of tariffs, in spite of whatever the Supreme Court ruling on the tariff, I think you and I well know that the president has a lot of levers on his hand, to play with the tariff. I think it is prudent on our part to actually look at it, like we say, very unemotional about all these things, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the bottom line for our own people.
Yes.
So going back to China, right? What concerns me is actually their growth. They have a huge structural advantage against anybody in the world. Right? In spite of their economy being approximately less, I think 16 trillion compared to the states of about 30 plus trillion, right? 32 trillion or something like that.
Yes.
I mean, that 1.4 billion population, you take that number, even if the numbers has declined, right? Even if it's 1.3 or 1.2, let's take the 1.4 billion. Still a huge number of in terms of economies of scale.
Yes.
Right? And that makes competing on economies of scale practically futile.
No contest.
No contest, right? I mean, it is a,
We can't
what say you?
compete.
I don't think anybody can. I don't think Europe can compete. I don't think America can compete.
Yeah, we can't compete.
Yeah.
In terms of scale, we can't compete. We don't have that kind of numbers. Our population is very small. So we want to compete. We have to compete in a strategic manner, and we have to really think through which are the area, the niches. You see, in today's world, tariff is now part of the structural component. It is now part of life. You have to deal with it, right? And what is important is in terms of geopolitics today, it is about leverage. As a small country, how can we find that leverage? Who was that scientist who said, Archimedes? Give me a lever and I will lift the world or something like that. It was about leverage. Because if you have that leverage, you are able to succeed and you can do almost impossible things. And therefore, every country that is small, like Malaysia, Singapore, we have to be very pragmatic about it, cast off the emotion, find the leverage. Because if we don't have leverage, then we become very vulnerable. So the question that we should always ask ourselves, or even America is asking themselves, when they face a small country like us, what do you, as a small country, bring to the table? So we have to always ask ourselves, what can we bring to the table when we talk to US? What can we bring to the table when we talk to China? So where is our strategic leverage? So that is the key. Not compete on their terms or we will lose.
I find that in terms of leverage, when we said we're going to have this conversation, I find that in China, their main structural issue at the moment is overcapacity.
Yes.
Right? And both in terms of probably investing the money, they may be looking at external sources to invest the money. I'm not sure how long that will take, how long that will continue. That's one advantage that I think if we provide a stable environment, or a strategic advantage of having a place for them to work here. But even that, I'm very skeptical, because I think they can produce everything in China, to be honest, right?
Cheaper too.
Yeah, I mean, look at our durian fruits export.
Yeah.
Okay, the durian exporters are already are already hit by them wanting more fresh durian than packaged durian,
Yes.
right? And the prices, there's been a glut. I think Vietnam is exporting more. So raw commodity also is problematic for us
Yes.
right now vis-a-vis China. I am not sure. I'm not sure. How do we deal with China then? What would you be looking at China to provide for us?
Well, if you look at our export, the items that we export to China,
Yeah.
China is always resource hungry. So Malaysia, we are much blessed by God. So we have fairly resource rich, right? So one of the biggest component of export to China, the goods that China wants from us, to buy from us, one of course is crude oil, a little bit of gas. And palm oil is a huge component which we export a lot to China, because we have that, and rubber is also another big component of export that we sell to China, and a series of other components like iron ore, copper ore, and these are those stuff that we dig out from the ground, raw iron ore. Actually, not that great, but we shouldn't be exporting raw stuff.
Yeah.
That is why the government has basically prohibited any export of raw rare earth. So we need to be processed everything here. But these are the stuff that we export to China, and we make money out of it. But the irony is that when we export raw iron ore to China, they will process it and they make it into steel bars and they export it back to us. And that killed our steel industry in Malaysia. You look at all the steel mills in Malaysia, every one of them has collapsed because of tremendous, huge capacity, overcapacity that was exported from China to Malaysia. Now, China was just building like crazy, but they were having all the steel bars and all that. But even that, their building has kind of slowed down quite a bit because the property sector is badly hurt. But when they export their overcapacity here, it's very cheap steel bars. Developers in Malaysia would buy the Chinese one rather than you go and buy it from Lion Steel. What has happened to Lion Steel? Gone. What has happened to Mega Steel? Gone. What has happened to Bombardier? Southern Steel.
Bombardier itself is a different issue altogether. If you ask me, it was gone from day one. But
so it has basically the biggest operator now in Malaysia is Alliance Steel, which is basically a Chinese company operating in Kuantan, in the Malaysia-China Kuantan Industrial Park. Huge, mega thing. And they are the ones now basically controlling our steel industry, whatever. So a lot of things like durian, so they are also growing their own durian. So the day will come, they don't need to import durians from Malaysia. They can grow it there.
They can grow there.
There.
Yeah.
And some of them are already owning durian plantations in Malaysia, basically owning it and exporting it to themselves back to China. So there are a lot of stuff that we really, really need to think, how do we leverage it? So one of those things, of course, is rare earth is a good example. Rubber, and also in terms of crude oil and gas, China is always hungry for crude oil and gas. They will buy as much as possible. And especially now with the impending escalation and perhaps an attack on Iran, China is actually very worried in terms of their energy security. I think close to about maybe more than 10% of their supply of oil comes from Iran. So if that goes up in smoke. Malaysia should take advantage of that and then you sell.
I agree with that.
More to them. You are an oil man. You will know the numbers.
Well, I mean, I think the only thing is most of the quite the bulk of China oil come from Iran, and obviously Russian oil,
Yes.
right? But I'm not sure when the Ukraine war is going to be over, in which case then, because one of the conditions that Putin was talking about and with Trump and all that in part as part of the negotiation is, reintegrating Russia into the global trade system. But I think at the end of the day, that will end as well,
Yes.
right? So I've always said that actually we will end up with a glut of oil, and I think we are coming to as it is right now, with oil just hovering probably between low 60s per barrel. So I think the other thing that concerns me that actually we need to look at, or our government need to look at, is when you have an overcapacity giant like China, they're going to export their overcapacity,
Yes.
right? And the thing that concerns me when I look at that particular map is actually the impact it will have. You've already talked about steel.
Yeah.
The impact it will have on our SMEs.
Yes.
And I don't think our private sector SMEs can compete. There's no way you can compete. Yeah. I mean, I akin business to a certain extent in terms of business is like playing poker, right? If you don't have a limit on how much you can buy in order to play the game, if one guy can have $1 million and everybody else have only a few thousand, I don't care how good you are. You lose.
Yes.
So that is the other challenge that the government and our people need to really look at in terms of our trade relation and how we are going to manage this trade relation.
Yes.
Because, and I think, we can look at, I saw the other day, there was an interview with Restaurant Owner Association or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, did you? Right? And they were like saying, we welcome the competition and all that. As in my heart, I was going, what is the word we use? Something you don't want to, something maybe that's not what you want to wish for, How do you see it? If Chinese restaurateur come into our market, right?
They are already here. You heard that conversation.
Yeah.
Obviously, our Malaysian restaurants, Chinese restaurants especially, whether it's a Thai tower or small tower or whatever, they are feeling the pinch because the clearest example is if you go to Kopong, there's one whole area there actually basically they sell steamboat, hot pot.
Okay.
Hot pot, as far as Malaysians are concerned, is very simple. You don't really need a chef. You don't need to cook the hot pot. The customer cooks it. All you need to do is to provide the raw ingredients and to serve the products, and that's it. But in comes the Chinese restaurant, and they have this mala hot pot, which is super spicy. And they importing all kind of food stuff from China, which is really cheap, whether it's fish or shrimp or frozen stuff and all that. And now they are competing directly with our Chinese hot pot restaurants operators. And locals are losing out because they don't have the scale. These guys have the scale.
Yeah. They already got the scale from the
China.
get-go. Yeah.
Yes, because they buy it in such big scale in China. So all they need to do is just send a part of that to Malaysia to operate. Look at the F&B sector. Nisue is selling the drinks at what, 4 ringgit? Lock-in coffee. Starbucks is still selling at 9 ringgit. That's why Starbucks is losing money. And Luckin Coffee is selling at 4.55 or 4.50. So the only one able to compete with Luckin Coffee is Juice Coffee, our Malaysian coffee. So can you imagine of all these chains that are coming in, including the latest chain on car service, Tohu.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
Car service, I think that one, because that is one of the biggest car service operators in China. You can actually book your servicing of a car, whatever you want to do, on the app. And it's very cheap, 99 ringgit.
Wow.
So, Malaysian car service guys, they are charging, the cheapest mom and dad shop, motor shop, is charging at least 250 ringgit with the synthetic oil, even normal engine oil, and then the service and all that. And these guys are coming in at 99 ringgit. So a lot of our small players is going to be muscled out from them by this kind of pricing. It is, in a sense, is predatory pricing. It really kills our people. So the smaller players will not be able to compete. So this is where we really need to think, where else can we find that niche and leverage?
I think to a certain extent, I mean, I'm not a socialist kind of guy, right? I'm a dead-on capitalist, but we understand that actually the world is not fair, right?
Obviously,
yeah, the world is not fair. So we need to recognize that the world is not fair, and so the rules need to be able to be fair to our people, and that's where I think we really need the government to really look at it before it's too late. Because otherwise, what we are doing is just funneling money outflow outside the country at the end of the day, and then every businesses is going to be owned and operated on marionette from China.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't have their people are so much cheaper than ours, actually, if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly. What we really need to look at in terms of our trade, whether it's a trade deficit or trade surplus with China, the whole total balance of trade.
Right.
But as you know, Malaysia trade component actually now, services sector has exceeded the goods sector.
Okay.
Yeah. So you talk in terms of real solid goods, there are very few things that we really can compete with China, except for those that
they become just raw materials, right?
Which they don't have, and maybe some of the high-end electronic E&E components that they don't have, so they will buy from us. But beyond that, the services sector is where they are not there yet, and we are already there. So we need to really leverage on our services sector where we can make money out of them. So obviously, tourism is one of them, right? Healthcare is another one. Education is another one. So these three, and then of course financial services, right? The Malaysian financial structure and in terms of the stability of the banking sector and everything else, we have a pretty solid, good foundation. You put money in Malaysia, your money is safe. You put money in Russia,
don't know.
I don't know. God bless you. You may not get your money
and
back.
Especially with the tension with the West at the moment.
Russian banks. I mean, who wants to put money in Russian banks?
Not just that. With the way the geopolitics is going on between Europe, America, and China. At least I think Malaysia is a good haven for Chinese money.
Yes, so we must provide those opportunities, investment opportunities for Chinese money to come out. But of course, they have restrictions because they are trying to keep as much money within their own, rather to invest in their own country, rather than to let the outflow there is capital flight from China because many of the rich people will know how to maneuver through all the loopholes and get the money out, whether through Macau and then Hong Kong and everywhere else.
Money always finds its way.
Yeah, it will find its way, whether it's crypto, Bitcoin, whatever, they will get it out and then to other countries. So we can provide that because Malaysia, by and large, this is a very stable region. This is, in fact, the best region for China. If you look at north, south, east, west, China's north is basically Russia. Relationship, they say we are the best of friends and all that. Actually, it is a relationship that can also go sideways. Partly because Putin now is already slowly aligning himself towards Trump.
Well, not only that, I do believe that, as far as historical is concerned, China and Russia has not been the best of friends for a long time.
So it has historical background.
Yeah, it's a marriage of convenience.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure structurally, as it is today, Russia doesn't like to play second fiddle. And right now, China is the big boss.
Yeah, Russia feels like I'm a junior partner.
They're absolutely a junior partner.
Yeah, and definitely it's not something that Russia is very comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the north. The east of China is Japan and South Korea. That's another area of these two countries which is giving China a lot of headache.
They've got historical issues with them
baggage,
as well. Yeah.
Right. West. China's west is basically technically the Middle East and India. India-China relationship is not that great either. Right? On and off, they will still have issues. Whether it's the line of control or whatever skirmishes they have at the border, they will still have all those issues, right? So the only safe haven for China is the south, Southeast Asia.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
ASEAN, Malaysia. So if this place is unstable, China will have north, south, east, west, everywhere. They're in trouble. So they need to keep Malaysia, which is ASEAN and Southeast Asia, to be the safest. This is the backyard. This is the background. And this is the place where they can actually leverage and make a lot of money out of it.
I think if that's the case, if I look at it, if you just establish the leverage, right? If you just establish the leverage as that, then the strategy must be, how do we put conditions for investments, and how do you get businesses that are set up by China here that would be in fair competition and also be allowing for employment of our own people, rather than importing employment or actually offshoring the employment within China and then just exporting stuff from there. I think that's how a country should look at it, right? And that's a good segment, actually, just talking on China alone, from that basis. Shall we move then? So we understand we need some rules, some conditions, and then welcome the investment, right? Go the value chain rather than just simply sending up our raw materials to their borders, right?
I mean, a good example has been, I think, if you can say, Proton Geely.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Proton was languishing in losses year after year until the then Prime Minister Najib decided that, okay, it's time to just sell a huge part of it and let Geely run the show.
Yeah.
And so far now, we are hearing Proton is beginning to make money with a Geely badge or whatever. The CEO is from China, But at least now some of our cars can be exported out. So we shouldn't be providing so much incentive to people, cars which are coming in from China, like BYD, totally imported, and then flooding our market. We should be promoting whatever that we have with the strategic alliance with them. Okay, if we can join hands and we produce this, good. Then we actually incentivize at least the location and the manufacturing center is in Malaysia, whether it's in Proton City or wherever it is here. That's why it's quite interesting to take note that Porsche decided to put a manufacturing base in China, in Kedah. It was an arrangement with Sime Darby, but so Porsche is not a small company, right? So if they are beginning to look at manufacturing Porsche cars in Malaysia, that means there is something. There is something there. So this could be a niche that we look at and see how we can continue to move up from there. The investments.
Let's look at let's move a bit to the second largest export market that we have, which is the US.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's very interesting that there was a lot of hoo-ha with Rafizi saying a few things, Afro saying a few things, the finance minister too. About the tariffs that have been negotiated after the Supreme Court ruling on Trump's tariff. I look at that and I'm like, because as you said before, the elephant will have its way. Yeah. It's how you actually manage your relationship. Just how I'm saying we should manage the relationship with China.
Yes.
How do we manage our relationship with the US so that we get the best out of it?
Yes.
At the moment, unlike with China, we're dealing with a trade surplus. Right? And that, I think for a small country, if you ask me, negotiating with America, the amount of trade surplus we have with the US is nothing to them. If you ask me, it's a rounding error. Right? So it's more about how to strategically put yourself in the position of providing strategic interests.
Right.
Rather than pure dollar and cent. And this is where I find the emotion part I keep saying is always killing us. It's not enough that our politicians make use of the 2 R's in race and religion in their whole thing. They have to grab whatever happened in the Middle East to bring into our political discussion as well. When you look at Singapore as a comparison, Singapore doesn't do that.
Well, they are carefully calibrating their equilibrium. They know how to do it. Singapore is quite precise. They run their numbers, they run the scenarios. You know that in the Prime Minister's office in Singapore, there is a unit called Horizon Risk Scanning Unit. And that has been in existence all the way back to Lee Kuan Yew's time. That means they have a unit that will always scan the horizon for what is the risk to Singapore today, since 30 years ago. And they look at it and they have been doing scenarios. So they plan everything and they know how to calibrate. How do we calibrate this? So the relationship between US and China is a carefully calibrated equilibrium. They don't get it right all the time. Sometimes they get in trouble with China. Sometimes they get ignored by US, but they are doing that. Malaysia seems to be more laid back. We are more laissez-faire, and we say that it's okay, we are flexible, we are ambiguous. Sometimes we are actually quite ambiguous. Is there a foreign...
Sometimes we want to be jago kampung.
Yeah. Is there a clear foreign policy that we have? Sometimes it looks as if we are just hedging and hoping for the best. Neither here nor there, and hope that it will work out fine. We have been very blessed in that sense. And I think one of the best things that has happened to Malaysia is the recent ASEAN summit, which actually focused a lot on Malaysia. We could parade what we have as a very diversified country and provided that leadership, and which actually basically we provided value for America, for Trump. I mean, Trump of all times, I mean, why would he want to come to ASEAN summit? But he came partly because he wanted to show that he is the peacemaker, and he could broker the peace between Cambodia and Thailand. And out of the blue, because China, ASEAN, I mean, the US wanted to do that, PMX, our own prime minister, suddenly became very important component for Trump. Because anything to do with Cambodia and Thailand, basically PMX gets to start the peacemaker process, and he has now a direct line to Trump. He can report anything. Okay, Cambodia, Thailand, this is the thing. Because the peace treaty, technically, at least a ceasefire agreement was signed. And Trump wanted that, whether it is to show off that he can win the Nobel Peace Prize or whatever.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we play a very crucial role, right? And Trump was appreciative of that. I mean, he was gushing all over, say, well, Malaysia is fantastic, and then we managed to do this, and he was just dancing. You remember the reception when he came down? So he was very bullish and very positive. He had all the good things to say about Malaysia. Even when he goes back home in America, he was still talking about Malaysia. You know, so that is a very important perception. So we shouldn't waste that kind of goodwill capital that we have generated, intentionally or otherwise. You know, this has given us great advantage for Trump. So now, use it.
I mean, I look at it. I mean, I look at Singapore. I'm quite envious on how they have run their geopolitical and taking advantage of the economy. They learn their lessons. I mean, the Kuan Yew went to China and invested in the Suzhou industrial park. You know, they lost a lot of money in there. They end up actually having to sell out. You know, and bring down their equity in that particular this one, because and yet, you know, I mean, China is a big trading partner for them.
Yes.
And yet their housing, they are basically doing maintenance for the 7th Fleet, for the US 7th Fleet.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
They have very good relations with Israel.
Yes.
Right? And all this, you know, that's this capacity of neutrality actually has benefited them a lot, you know.
Yes.
And I think if you look at Malaysia with respect to ASEAN, you know, I don't understand why we can't take more advantage of that, just like what you said. Irrespective whether Trump's going to be there or not in the after 2028, it's not relevant. What's relevant? You got another 3 years of track to actually build upon this.
Yes.
Right? And I don't think we're taking advantage of it. I don't see ourselves taking advantage of this.
The thing about Malaysia is that sometimes we forget how important is it to maintain, in fact, to enhance that relationship with Singapore. Within ASEAN, Singapore is the biggest threat. I mean, if you want to say, what is the threat horizon for Singapore? Singapore's biggest nightmare is actually Indonesia. Can you imagine if Indonesia just sent 10 million Indonesians to Singapore, Singapore will be overrun. This is the nightmare scenario. And they don't want to talk about it because they know they are a very small country. And the only country that can help them is actually Malaysia. So it is in their advantage to align themselves closer and closer to Malaysia, so that Malaysia can provide that kind of security in that sense.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, Malaysia is not a threat to Singapore. They know. Look at the military capacity and our military capacity. We are not a threat, right? But Indonesia is a threat because of the sheer number of 200 million of people there. And they can be very hungry. And they're very poor. There have been a lot of riots, pogroms, and all kinds of massacre that happened in Indonesia before. So the history is bad. But Malaysia and Singapore, we were actually together. There was just a political surgery that separated the two. But now we are coming together. So we must begin to provide that kind of strategic value to Singapore so that whatever Singapore does, there will be some spillover value to us somehow because we must take advantage of their strategic positioning. We don't need to be there. We don't need to be like another Singapore.
We have more land.
That is why sometimes, one of our deputy minister always try to sell Malaysia as, Malaysia is Singapore at a discount. I respectfully disagree with that because the moment you begin to put that kind of narrative that, Malaysia is Singapore at the discount, will be very cheap. That's a wrong narrative and positioning. So we have our own value. And Singapore knows it. That is why you notice that the Singapore Johor Special Economic Zone was enacted. So that is something that Singapore is already looking at because they know if they have more links to Malaysia and closer to Malaysia, they will feel safer. And the numbers are there. And then we have a lot of Malaysians, at least, in terms of reality, Malaysia is still a Muslim majority country, right? So if Indonesia tries to whatever overwhelm Singapore, they also have to think twice. You have Malaysia there and all that. So the whole geopolitics is quite different. And Malaysia will provide a lot of things to Singapore that Singapore does not have. And they can relocate here. A lot of stuff. Even now in Johor, there are a lot of the multinational offices in Singapore. They have relocated their mid-level management staff all to Johor. Because they don't need big offices in Singapore anymore. It's cheaper to rent those offices in across the causeway.
You know what I never understood is actually we have the capacity to be the regional headquarters for for American businesses in Southeast Asia. Even at the very least, if not, almost for Asia, structurally, we are going to be less expensive. That's for sure, right? We can provide better infrastructure actually compared to Singapore because Singapore is going to be is dense, right?
It's already running out of space.
Correct.
Right.
So and you are central to everywhere. And we have a better lifestyle, if you ask me, right? And a bigger manpower to tap, So if we don't really see, when I compare like the differences in strategy, right? American economy needs people.
Yes.
China economy does not need your people. Right? No matter how you slice it, American population is not going to grow to the level of even half of China.
No.
Right? Which means that, you can have strategic industries move to your place or provide the supply chain towards America. It's just how you go about it. Right? So, because why? I mean, you cannot. There are two things when I look at business, right? One is transparency of doing business, which means do you have proper rule of law and all that?
Yes.
Western Europe and America provides that.
Yes.
Yeah. And to a large extent, Malaysia and Singapore provide that.
Because we are part of the Commonwealth.
Correct.
So the Commonwealth rule of law is very clear.
Very clear.
It's English law.
I
so
know.
It's very clear. So America is very comfortable with our infrastructure.
I've done businesses cross border, as I said. Everybody is comfortable with Malaysia and Singapore doing business with Malaysians and Singapore, right? So, I mean, we just got to make sure that we don't have, corruption going the way it is going, right? We got to cut that down, But other than that, if I look at it, right, I think that is the market to tap in order to bring value added And actually, in spite of the tariff, people must understand what is working on that basis, which is actually they want to tax. They want to tax export. Go ahead, tax export as long as I can compete.
Yes.
Yeah. Right? And they are industries they will never go in. They're done with those kind of industries like furniture, textiles, and all that. It's not going back to the US.
Yeah, they won't.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So because Malaysia's role, you see, in terms of those key things that we can provide even to the US market. Currently, we are selling one of the biggest export is the E&E, the electronic equipment and the electrical thing. And that has been great because when Andy Grove was a nobody, when he came to Penang and he set up Intel years ago, that's kind of history that we had. And today he's such a big man. Intel is such a big company, and Intel is still operating in Penang. Now doing more complicated, higher level designing and all that. So that is the niche that we really need to move up. Malaysia cannot continue to be a country that talks about manufacturing made in Malaysia. We must be doing manufacturing or whatever made by Malaysia for the world.
Yeah.
Don't keep making things in Malaysia, made in Malaysia, but actually we are contract manufacturers for China, contract manufacturers for America and all that. And we are just making stuff that our masters, so to speak, asking us to do. And we keep doing those stuff. And you never be big and you never grow. But if you be able to look at niches where you say, now this is made by Malaysia. Look at all the companies in Japan. Toyota, made by Japan for the world. Mitsubishi, Panasonic, made by Japan for the world. Samsung, made by South Korea for the whole world. Right? It's not made in South Korea, it's made by South Korea. But everybody in the world buys Samsung. Right? So that is the key. So Malaysia must move in that line. Where are our global champion?
I think on that, I add a bit. I think the collaboration with Japan is another advantage that we should leverage on. I think they are going to be a growing economy moving forward. That's my feeling looking at it. Sometimes you look at economies, you look at culture, right? Is the culture ready for an economic change? And I think I've looked at China businesses. They have evolved. They have evolved from the old days of being big and bureaucratic to being more agile and innovative. Rather than being just, refining and getting things better. So that's exactly where we got to move to, like what you said.
Yeah.
Maybe we look at actually how is our relationship with the EU. And, because I think globally, out of my mind, I really look at that particular market. That's very baffling market to me. It's like they are like into a suicidal, self-inflicted fatality. Maybe you can elaborate on that or clarify for me, because the more I look at EU, the more I go and shake my head. So I don't know where that market is. How long will it be there for us? And it gets tougher and tougher with Brussels.
Yes, it gets worse, and it's going to get worse before it can even get better. And they have got very strange rules. So hang out with climate change and everything else. Look at their campaign against our palm oil.
Yeah,
right. It's a deliberate, intentional campaign.
Yeah,
just to ban Malaysian palm oil.
Yeah.
And they come up with every single reason, whether they call it the RSPO or RPSO, whatever standards, and we can never keep up to it, because every time we are there, they will come up with a new component and say, "Oh, you're not there. We can't import your stuff. We don't want palm oil." Compared to America, America is one of the biggest importer of palm oil, other than China, India, of course.
Yeah.
McDonald's use palm oil to cook all the fish and chips or whatever, French fries. Right? Hershey, America, chocolate.
Palm oil.
They buy palm oil. I mean, they have a plant. Whether it's M&M or whatever other chocolate products, so they have no issues with palm oil. Why does EU have so much issue with palm oil? It's political, it's geopolitical. They simply don't like that, and they use all the kind. That's one of the reasons why they are in this kind of doldrums and they're stuck, and they do not know where they want to go. They themselves are having their own economic headache and troubles. There is really not much of a bright spot in EU. They were at one time they were pushing so much about solar, and they decommissioned all the nuclear power plants, and now they're trying to go backwards. France is trying to recommission the nuclear plants. Germany is trying to go
the
back.
energy prices, actually, they've overpriced themselves in that energy. How are you going to manufacture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where the whole manufacturing base of Germany is almost hollowed out, right? And so many of those motor vehicle companies are in trouble. Volvo is gone.
Yeah.
Right. So Porsche is still there, but I think BMW is also.
BMW. Okay. Volkswagen was taken over by.
Volkswagen is gone.
Was it China that took over?
I think China took over.
Right.
Right. So many of these they are in trouble. So if they don't reform and transform fast enough, they are going to be the sick man of Europe, man of the world.
That really means that our policymakers must really look at where are the other markets for our goods and services.
Exactly. So the market that is left, obviously China, obviously US,
India,
and the Middle East.
That's
the Middle East and a part of Russia, old Soviet Union, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Middle East. What is one common factor? Muslim. We are a progressive Muslim nation. So if we market stuff to the Middle East and to Kazakhstan, they're brothers. Easier to sell stuff there. And this is such a huge market that we should have looked in and basically latch on. So this is where also a lot of problems that our policymakers said to say, we missed out opportunities. Healthcare, IHH. Tanzania used to own IHH, and we used to be the majority stake. IHH was basically on its way to become the biggest global private healthcare company in the world. We were making acquisitions in Turkey. We were making inroads to Singapore. I mean, IHH owns Parkway, owns Pantai and all those. So the number of beds and all that, we will venture into India. And then somehow, when there was a change of government, this is Tun Mahathir's fault. Really, I have to say this because he sold. He forced Khazanah to sell 16% of the equity in IHH to Mitsui.
Why?
He wanted to raise 8 billion cash.
That's so little.
Yeah.
I mean, from a country standpoint, that's so little.
So silly, And then everything, instead of putting money for Khazanah to expand acquisition and take over healthcare, hospitals, we did not have that money. We sold down our stake, and then Mitsui came to be a bigger partner. Even now today, I think it's still not too late, because we still have about 40%, 41%, 42%, because Khazanah, EPF, KWAP, and a small PNB still owns some shares, 5%, 3%, and all that. We come out to still about 40%. But of course, Mitsui is now a majority shareholder. They are closer to about close to about 50%. But it's still not too late, because the healthcare industry in the Middle East is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at who owns a hospital in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Emirates, Bahrain, Jordan, Kazakhstan. And this is a growing industry. Private healthcare, as people prosper, they got more money, they're quite prepared to spend. The biggest number of nurses in Saudi Arabia today are actually Malaysians. I know, because many of them are there. Because it's good money, good salary to work as a nurse in Saudi Arabia. Right? And the hospitals are great. And Malaysia has got a sterling reputation in terms of healthcare. You look at our public healthcare. I mean, we had a system that was so good. You only pay RM1, $1, and you get special public healthcare. So much so that even Thaksin from Thailand actually copied us, and he charged 60 baht. It was RM6, and that helped. And from the public healthcare, we have evolved into private healthcare. And the sad thing is that policymakers today in Malaysia keep talking about medical tourism, right? As if that this is the golden goose, medical tourism. We get all the tourists from all the world come to Malaysia and do procedure and pay our doctors. I mean, yes, medical tourism. I think that vision is too small. Why talk about medical tourism? You should be talking about controlling every single hospital in the Middle East, in some parts of China, and some parts of Russia. Those countries which are Muslim countries. I mean, Kazakhstan is loaded. They're rich. I've been to Astana, and they are very well prepared to have Malaysian hospitals run by Malaysians. So this is where you say made by Malaysia. To run it for
That's an interesting
the whole
concept.
world. The whole world.
Yeah.
This is how we can approach it. And this, can you imagine the kind of what do you call that? The scale that we have when we run healthcare worldwide. Become the biggest healthcare player, private healthcare player in the whole world. This is good. Exactly the same thing happens when we talk about MRT. Rolling stock trains. At one time when we first started our MRT1 project, there were companies in like Bombardier. Bombardier was one of the top players in terms of providing the rolling stock, the trains. And they were in trouble because Bombardier went into air transport and rail transport. Air transport because they had Bombardier jets and all that. And that's a losing business, basically, the segment. And they were quite prepared to start a plant, manufacturing plant in Malaysia. I was involved in that. And I said, this is huge because Bombardier said, I don't care what brand you use. You want to use Bunga Raya, you want to use Satay, whatever name is okay, but we provide you the technology to build the train. Because Bombardier saw that you guys are moving into train. MRT1, MRT2, MRT3. The total rolling stock, the trains that we need to buy for all these MRT and LRT comes out to about 60 billion. Now, if we had a plant here, that 60 billion would have been paid to Malaysian company and still stay in Malaysia rather than to go and pay. So in the end, who do we buy our trains from? We bought some from Japan. We bought a lot from China. We bought some from even, I think, Korea. And then some we bought from Alstom, I think Canada or whatever. And then a lot of our LRT, now you see.
I hate to mention the KLIA train.
All these are running into trouble because those people who supply us with the trains, they don't give us good technology. Right? Sometimes very poor, unfortunate. So this could have been, you see, if we had a manufacturing base of building trains and rolling stock in Malaysia, the same market in the Middle East would have been ours. Because today, if you go to Middle East, every single one of these countries are doing trains. They have high-speed rail, they have all kinds of rail everywhere. You go to Kazakhstan today,
wow,
trains. Right? That would have been an area that we would have really made money.
Okay. With that, actually, you got me on the depressing note for that.
Wait till we become the oil and gas, even more depressing.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jason. I think for our audience, we'll leave it at that. On our discussion on geoeconomics and how it relates to us and where we're going and how we should look at it. I hope it's given some different perspective than what you hear outside. That's the whole idea of Gutshot.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, guys, subscribe and see you guys again on Monday when a new episode will drop for that. Thank you so much. See you all again. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye.